I know a lot of you guys out there are very excited for the Valve Steam Deck. I'm hella excited as well. I mean, I'm really looking forward to this thing. And with me being excited about it, of course, I'm going to continue talking about it when I feel I have something important to say or something interesting. And that's what we got today. I'm going to be doing a little test, a little testy test action for you guys. Now, obviously, I don't have a Valve Steam Deck in my hands, but I think this test may be valid in the sense that, hey, give you a decent idea of performance as far as loading goes using micro SD cards, because that's what we talked about in my previous video, that for the most part using micro SD cards should be fine with this device. Now, a lot of people have been saying, oh, using micro SD cards is going to be a piss poor experience, it's going to be garbage. Why would they do this? Nobody's going to use this. It's not making any sense type of thing. But why would they do all the test footage using micro SD cards if it doesn't work or it works extremely poorly? I don't know. So that's what I wanted to test today. The Valve Steam Deck is essentially a PC. So why not just test loading a game off of Steam, a AAA game off of Steam on a micro SD card on my PC, and then transferring that installation on over to an NVMe SSD and kind of comparing the performance. Now, I know my PC is not the same specs as the Steam Deck. The drives I'm using may not be the same. I know there's variables, but it's just to give an idea. That's why I wanted to do it, because I want to see. I want to kind of have a good idea here. I've never loaded a AAA game off of a micro SD card before. I've never thought of it. So there's going to be tons of options as far as micro SD cards go. The one I am using today for this test is this SanDisk Ultra 128 gigabyte SDXC. All the specs are here. We're not going to go over all that, but it says it has like a max read speed of 120 megabytes per second. So I wanted to load up a game off of Steam and just run it through the micro SD card. Now, as far as the specs of my PC go, for people who want to know, I am running a PC that is using an AMD 5600X CPU with an NVIDIA RTX 3070. Fairly new build. I recently put this together. Haven't really messed with Steam too much on the system, just barely starting to download a few things. Now, you did see the micro SD card we're going to use, and I'll show you that Death Stranding is loaded on that in a second. The NVMe that we're going to be using is a Samsung 980 Pro M.2 1 terabyte drive. Now, I did run some little arbitrary tests earlier, just not optimized, but just to get an idea of the read-write speeds for both of these storage devices that I'm using. Like I said, I didn't optimize anything. I had everything going, multiple things going at once. Drives were being accessed, so this kind of probably lower than what the optimal numbers could be or should be with the two drives I'm using today. But with the Samsung 980 Pro, I was getting a read speed, an average read speed of 2,423 megabytes per second, and then an average write speed of 2,107 megabytes per second. Now, going down to the micro SD card that we're using, running the same test, seeing what my speeds were, read, I was getting 69.7 megabytes per second average, and then a write speed of 27 megabytes per second average for the write. So yeah, way lower numbers than the NVMe I'm using. We don't know what the actual specs are in the NVMe's that the Steam Deck's going to use, but hell, just an idea. So let's jump into it, okay? So Death Stranding on Steam. Let me go to Manage and go to Browse Local Files, and then boom, here we go. You can see the game is loaded on the SDXC drive, the micro SD card. Death Stranding right there. That is where I have it. Boom, the SDXC. So it's on there, okay? That's where she's located. That is where it is located. And then we will move it to a whole other drive, that Samsung drive. So local files, let me see. Drive F is what it's saying, which drive F is that SDXC. So let's go ahead and load the game up. What I want to do is I played this briefly on my laptop, so the save should cross over. Because what I want to do is just continue the game, because when you continue a game in Death Stranding, it has to load, and you get that loading bar going. If you like start a new game, like the loading is kind of hidden behind cutscenes and whatnot. So I figured I want to just continue a game to get the loading that way. So that's the test we're going to run on both drives. So micro SD card first. Let's go ahead and get it going. Okay, so there was that. Just a quick little test. The game loaded pretty quick, in my opinion, off of micro SD card. That was the first boot up of the game on the micro SD card. So not bad. I mean, it wasn't that slow. It was pretty fast, in my opinion. Now, what I want to do, I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but we are going to go ahead and transfer this over to that SSD. So we're going to move the install folder. Right now, it is, oh, there's the size of it, 63.15 gigabytes. So for sure, you wanted to play this on the 64 gigabyte Steam Deck? It ain't happening unless you have a micro SD card. But we're going to go ahead and move that install folder over to the C drive, which is that Samsung 980 Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and let that move and just let it run through. It could take a little while, so I may fast forward through this part, and then we'll come back to it and load it up off of that SSD drive and kind of compare, give you guys some final thoughts. Okay, so that took a little while, but the game now is installed on the Samsung NVMe SSD. So let's go ahead and double check that. Go to Manage, Browse Local Files, and yes, it's on the C drive. So going back, boom, C drive. That's where it's at. So we're going to go ahead and load it up and then compare. The micro SD card, like I said, it's not the most scientific test, just a little comparison, like screw it. But on the micro SD card, it took about 30 seconds when the loading bar came up for the full, for the game to actually go into continuing the game. So let's see how it performs with the SSD. All right, my friends, so that concludes the unscientific test. But you know what? The SSD was about 3 times faster loading the game than the micro SD card that I was using. Not top of the line micro SD card by any means, but you know what? I think it was tolerable how long it took to load. Now, the one comment that I saw a few times was comparing micro SD card read and write speeds to hard drives, just old school hard drives, including the PS4 and PS4 Pro, the hard drives that those systems used. I looked it up, and all the information I could find was that, yeah, the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, the stock hard drive that it came with was between 80 to 100 megabytes per second as far as the read and write speed went, which is pretty similar to micro SD cards. So is this really going to be a problem? I don't freaking think so, dude. Now, I did state in my other video I have a very small worry with micro SD cards as far as the lifespan of them failing and whatnot. But overall, it's not too much of a concern. As I'd stated, probably out of like 200 micro SD cards that I've had, I've only had a couple that have failed on me over like extreme use. And I mean like reading and writing, like burning images to them over and over and over and over again. And then that was an issue and the SD card wound up failing. But I think in this case, as long as like, the prices are fine. Micro SD cards are not too expensive right now. I would stay away from the 1 terabyte ones. Just that's my preference because they're way too expensive for what they are. But like 256 gigabytes, 512, like I'm fine with that. Most likely I'll probably buy maybe a 400 gig or a 512 micro SD card just for the Steam Deck and pop it in there and use that as backup storage for, certain games or whatever. But yeah, I feel like, okay, the test I did today, I know the system specs are not identical, but it gave me a better idea of what to expect. Like the Steam Deck is a PC. I'm testing this on a PC. Essentially the same thing. Either you're loading a game on an NVMe SSD or Are you loading the game off of a micro SD card? And yes, there's limitations. Death Stranding was the game that I tested today, but sure, other games may be different. Other tests will, have different results. It's just, this is what I was working with, and I just wanted to give myself an idea and share with you guys as well. So let me know what you think down below. Really do appreciate every single one of you guys. And with that said, give you guys a big ass thumb button in the face. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom. Bye.